What's up, mud dudes? My name is Sister Turley, and this is my new custom track called Marsh SX2. And some of you day one motherfuckers may actually remember the original track, so it's been a while for sure, but it's awesome, man. It's just cool to come back. This is my first, second version of one of my tracks that I've ever done before, and a lot of those, two MX Simulator tracks out there, whatever, a lot of times they are basically the exact same track, but just a different layout. It's very, very basic, the changes that people will make whenever they'll make a second version of something. So I want to make that really clear. This is not a Marsh SX remastered, you know what I mean? This is a completely different track. It's a full-blown Marsh SX2. Yeah, it's got kind of the same vibe going on and some of the same kind of track designs, but it is a completely new track from the ground up, or from the mud up, I should say. So this is a full-blown muddy track. If you like ruts, particularly going up the faces of jumps and having that super realistic kicker off the face of the jumps and stuff, this is your track right here, homie, for sure, because pretty much every single jump face has some sort of rut on it or roughness, and for the most part I feel like MX Simulator, just a lot of people don't put that in there. They just, for whatever reason, they will neglect that rut on the actual jump face side of things, and I guess I understand it in a certain sense, because it does make it about 5 times as more difficult because you get a lot of random kickers and stuff, but man, it's just so much fun. People will add roughness and stuff like that to jump faces, but to actually get actual pretty good dug down in the dirt ruts up the jump faces, that's pretty sick when people actually do that. So, but yeah, I want some of you track makers out there to really pay close attention to how I place my trees on this track. This is a perfect example of what I was talking about on some of my other track reviews out there, when I was talking about placing your trees in a very inconsistent manner so that it makes it look a lot more realistic. For instance, I'll have 3 different types of trees, but I'll only have one type of tree in one part of the track, and I'll also place my trees where I will put 2 or 3 in one tight area, and then I'll spread it out. You got to have that variation, or it just looks like a tree farm in the background. So, but yeah, so you'll definitely notice that if you'll look off the track and really look at how I place the trees. I mean, and that's something where you gotta focus when you do that, because it's not as simple. Let me actually turn a little bit of roost on so you guys can see the different roost. Okay, so I got the roost on here, and what I was saying is it's very, very important to have that differences within all of your off-track stuff, because you're trying to keep that realism as closely as to real life as you possibly can, and real life is not very consistent with the way things are placed. So a lot of times it's easy to get in that habit of just hopping on there and plopping down a bunch of trees in random areas on the off track, and what that does is that basically, you would think it wouldn't make it consistent, just going out there and randomly placing the trees, but it actually does make it look super consistent for some reason. So it's better to go in there and really have it in your mind, okay, let me put 2 or 3 trees right here, and then let me go over here and put 1 tree, and then let me go over here and put 5 trees in this one area. You really got to be inconsistent in that manner. And if you can see on the roost right here, you can see how it's going from this darker dirt, and then it spits out this kind of yellowy, kind of muddy looking color. That's because the on track has its own dirt fill. It's got a little bit slicker of a fill. I call it light mud. It's got a little bit slicker of a fill than your normal dirt, and then when you go in the actual water sections, it's going to be a lot slicker. And then the grass itself has its own fill, so it's kind of 3 different tile maps on this track, the same as the original Marsh SX. So Yeah, just some similar feels to the track and to the original, having some very unique sections with the way I've done some of the ruts and stuff. And some of the track is a little less rutty, so it gives you a little bit of break from just that crazy rough ruts going up every face of the jumps. So, like right here, it gets a little bit smoother, and I think the original Marsh SX had somewhat more of that smoother vibe. This is definitely more of a hyper realistic, like ruddy, kickery off every jump face kind of track here. So it's definitely different from something I've made in a while. So I think it's pretty sick. But I think a lot of you guys will enjoy it. Don't get too frustrated. It's meant to be a muddy track. Never forget that. Like, think about how hard a rough, muddy track is in real life. They are not easy, and you got to be very patient, and it's the exact same way in MX Simulator. I mean, it's identical. You cannot rush things like that. So let me actually play this back again for the third time, and let me get in this view so I can kind of show you guys around a little bit. But yeah, there's just kind of some random roughness, and I really like how I've managed to put like different types of roughness and ruts all the way around the track. You'll notice that when you get on the track, like there's just different ways I've built the roughness and the ruts in different areas of the track. So it kind of, you're not just seeing the same exact roughness over and over and over and over, and the same ruts over and over on the entire track. So I thought that was pretty cool, but you can get in a pretty sick rhythm right here. I mean, you can see how crazy the ruts are. They just go in every which direction, but it's awesome, man. I love tracks like this. I don't know why. I think it's because just the lack of the amount of them in MX Simulator. I think some beginner MX Simulator players may not even think there can even be a track built like this right here. So there are a couple of them out there, but not many, dude. So like right here, you can see this rhythm section. It's not like super, super ruddy, but it's almost like very inconsistent on the jump faces, so it has like a cool different dynamic feel to it, different than, let's say our first triple over here that had some, dude, this is probably one of the best like corner to a triples I've ever made before. It's awesome because not only do you have a rut going up the face of the jumps, like ruts everywhere, but you also have the ruts in the corner as well, so it's super realistic like that. Like and there's so many line options on this track, and you'll realize that once you get on it, but it'll shock some of you guys when you really notice how like even I was trying to make every single line on this track. So for instance, right here you can come up the inside, which is obviously going to be quote-unquote quicker because you're going up the inside, but it's going to be a lot harder because you've got to get on the gas a lot quicker and have more straight drive traction to get the momentum to hit it from the inside. But what makes it a little bit easier also on the inside is the ruts right here on the landing of the right side are a little bit more dug down than the left side, so it's not quite as long of a jump peak, if that makes any sense. So if you come over here to the outside, obviously you're going to be able to carry your speed a little bit more. There's a kind of a dug down hole right here, so you got to be careful and not hit that. Just a little bit of dynamic, difficulty trying to even the outside out, but it's pretty smooth. You go around this berm hard, and then you got these gnarly as fuck ruts right here coming out of the outside, so you got to be careful and not get a kicker off that, but you got to hit it pretty hard. And like I was saying, you can see how it's not as like rutted down right here, which makes it to where you're gonna have to get more speed to actually get over the triple on the inside. And if you hit that outside of the triple, then it sets you up for the inside of this next section right here, which is going to set you right into the water right here. So as I was telling you guys before, it's a lot more slick. So not only is that whole like first rhythm balanced, but it's balanced into the second corner and the third rhythm as well. You see what I'm saying? Like it all balances. It's like the whole track has a balance in that sense. But so right here, you can either take the inside, which is going to be very tricky, very slick, and then you can try to huck it right up off this and get on the table, or you can hit kind of that middle rut and come around. And the reason why I built this so crazy and tall right here is so that once you got right here to this point on the middle rut, you couldn't jump over the rut and hit this right here, because let me show you what's cool about this outside line. So you can see all of this to the inside right here, sort of how it's got it had that first little single jump at the very beginning. Like right here, it's a little bit rutted out for this point, but if you take the outside, there is no first single jump right there. It's perfectly smooth, so you can just hit this wide open and just clear all of this stuff right here. So you're going to be able to jump a lot further, a lot easier, but it's going to take a lot more time running up all the way around the outside line over here. So it's all got this like cool, even kind of balance to it. And the ruts are really cool. Don't get too frustrated, like I'm saying. Sometimes you're just going to spin out and shoot off the track, and that's a mud track for you, bro. Like, that's how they are in real life, so don't get too mad at it. But awesome track. If you're into this kind of stuff, I would call this like one of my most realistic tracks I've ever made before. Like, pretty close to, definitely when it comes to mud tracks. It's pretty sick, and I just don't want you guys to get it twisted and think that this is like a Marsh SX sort of like replica, you know what I mean? Like, this is a full-blown different track. It just kind of has somewhat of the same feel and biome, but I mean, it is a totally different track. So wanted to make sure and make that clear. But yeah, so you come through all those rhythms, and then tons of ruts coming through right here. And what balances, let me just kind of explain the balance right here of this. I'll just go over a couple of these sections and then just let you guys figure out the rest, because that's kind of the fun of it. But right here, see, if you take the inside, it's going to be a little bit smoother. But the problem with taking the inside is once you get down here, it's a lot more, the actual, these were meant to be whoops, but then I rutted them out quite a bit. So you see, it's actually a lot more rough and harder to get in a rhythm on this right side. So the left side is going to be the more preferred and kind of down the middle, you know, because you can kind of find your line in between the rough bumps and stuff. And then right here, a pretty crazy section. I don't think I've ever seen a section quite like this on MX Simulator. Of course, I've always got to throw in something crazy, but so just like crazy water sections, you just got to... You can get a ton of speed going through this section. You got to be careful because everything's super slick, but a ton of different line options right here. And on the inside, so there's actually this raised up area, so you can either roll over that or just completely sky it out if you want to. But and then you can kind of pick, you know, you can run up the inside right here. Then you got all these ruts coming off of this little jump. And what's cool is, like, you can see right here how I've actually got water down in these ruts before you hit the jump. So a couple cool little areas like that. But you come down here, you hit this, which is a pretty unique section as well, where it's got ruts kind of slanting on a slanted jump face, like a curved jump face. And it's definitely a pretty cool, unique feeling when you hit this jump right here. But once it gets over here to this section, I definitely... eased off the ruts just a little bit. As you can see, it's a little bit more basic in here, but even these ruts right here are completely balanced. So the inside is very small of a rut, very smooth of a rut. Then you go to the middle line and it's a little bit taller, and then you go to the outside and it's a little bit taller. So, you know, you can carry more speed around the outside, but the inside, you know, you're cutting off more time. So then you hit this whoop section right here, not as rutty. Like I was saying, this is actually more of a whoop section instead of just a rutted out, just crazy like mogul looking section. So then you come around and you can hit the outside of this, and it's kind of got a rut in there, so it's a little bit tricky. Or you can just run up the inside and hit this triple right here. This triple, I think the face of it makes it look a little bit scarier than it actually is. And don't forget, you can always double this right here. Remember, this is a mud track. You know, you're not always meant to hit everything full blast. So if you're more of like an amateur rider, just remember you can always double these triples, because this is meant to be like a challenging mud style track right here. So then got this pretty unique actual mogul built kind of section here. Then a really awesome where you like jump up. I just kind of accidentally made this whole section right here, where you can kind of hit any of these ruts that you want to. Pretty sick. There's a ton of different rut options. Right here, it almost gets kind of motocrossy right there, but then you come over here and you can either go over here and not even jump this jump, or you can jump it and clear all the way over. So a little bit of balance right there. Then you come around, and that's where the lap actually ends, and then that's the corner back on to the track. And you can actually get more speed when you come back around here to hook this as far as you want to right here. So it's kind of cool, you know, like difference from coming off the start and then actually coming around on lap 2 for the different line options you can hit right there. So anyways, I'm going to put a link in the description to the track, and appreciate you guys watching all these videos. Later, dudes.